Stacey.
And I'm Lois.
And this is Whose Girl Are You? Today we're doing 20 questions, so let's go. Lois, 20 questions about raising kids.
All right.
You're a professional.
I try.
Well, how many years have you been learning about this? A few.
I don't know if this is a question in here or not, but
It's not. Not yet, but you know.
This is 21 questions, not 20, but I'll answer it just because, bonus question for you. My firstborn will be 39 very soon. 10 days after our 40th anniversary.
Okay.
Our firstborn will turn 39. Lots of years experience.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, you've been in it for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering that bonus question. What a sport. Okay. Technical number one, real number one. How old were you when you had your first child?
18.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah, baby.
Did you have any idea how many children you wanted before you even had any? Like, as a kid, you're like thinking about it, how many kids you want to have?
Absolutely. So there was a period of time in my life where I stayed with my sister who had 8 children. When she had number 8, her firstborn was, I think, 11, if I'm remembering correctly. So 8 and 11 years. And I told her I was having 2 kids. That was it. 2 kids. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so
I knew I was
3,
16, 15, 14, 13, 2 kids max.
Yeah. And then is that how many kids you had?
2 plus.
Plus, how many kids
7.
did you end up?
2 plus 7.
2. You're gonna make people do math here.
Yep,
All right.
Yep. Do the math.
Oh God.
We have 8 living, 1 in heaven.
Yeah. Awesome. Did you ever have to have a C-section?
No.
Wow. Praise God.
Yes. Praise God. I had home births. I had hospital births. Both, each has its place. And yeah, home birth's a magical experience if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
My first child, who was born at home, was literally cooing before she was all the way delivered.
Mm-hmm.
The midwife's like, listen, you can hear her making little noises. And I'm like, how could that happen? But it was so gentle and so beautiful. And,
Yeah.
But there's also you need the doctor and the hospital and all the medical technology expertise. So yeah.
Yeah. Has its place.
Absolutely.
Do you think your kids look more like you or their father?
So it's really weird because how should girls and boys, how should the genetics play out this way? Several of our boys look more like their father, and some of our girls, most or all of our girls, look more like me, which is
Mm-hmm.
how did the girls look like me and the boys look like him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The chances of that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a really good mix. You can see features of each, but.
Are any of them just spitting image of one or the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have 2 looks for the boys. Some of them, let me do the math. I think 3 of them are spitting images of their father, their baby pictures and whatever. It's dude,
Yeah.
you got to look at the year on the back if it's a black and white picture to know which one it is.
Yeah. Carbon copies. All right.
Yep.
Awesome. Who chose your kids' names? And I'm just going to put both these together. And did they have special meaning? So you can go through from top to bottom or bottom to top or whatever and tell me about that.
Okay. So our first kid, we were, talking names, and Al's like, if we have a boy, I really want to name him after my favorite cousin, Kevin. And at that time, Kevin was living in Canada, and I didn't know him, had never met him, knew nothing about him. And then okay, if we have a girl, we got to figure something out. Or I don't remember if we had a girl's name picked out. The details are very foggy on all of this, but
well, you just said it's been almost 40 years.
We're going to get the general gist of the story, right?
Okay.
So yeah, he was like, Kevin, if it's a boy. And I'm like, sweet. Kevin, it's great. So we named him Kevin. And I'm going to just tell the story because it fits in here.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 15, 20, 30 years, whatever. And Al's cousin Kevin moves to Clark County, and suddenly we have 2 Kevin Matsons living in Clark County with a Yakult address, and like the mailbox USPS is like, I'm trying to keep this straight, right? Who knew? Like, he lives in Canada. What, I didn't even think, 2 Kevin Matsons spelled the same. They do have a different middle initial, so that's good news. Middle names. I want to go over that before we start any of the other names. Middle names are all significant. First names are more just like we picked a name we liked.
Yeah.
Middle names are all significant. They're named after a dear friend, after a grandparent, after a, some kind of relative or whatever. So Kevin Albert. Albert was obviously his dad's name, but also his, what would it be? His great grandfather's name.
Okay.
Al's grandpa was Albert. So that, and then, Carissa was a name I found in a newspaper and loved the sound of it. And she's named after a very close family friend. Her middle name.
What's her middle name?
Lee.
Okay.
Yeah. Named after a family friend. So then we're at a juncture, right? We have Kevin spelled with a K. We have Carissa spelled with a K. And we're pregnant again. And we're like, do we change now? Do we keep going with
Well, because you were only going to have 2, so probably 3 was going to be it, right? So you were like, we're only going to have the 3 kids.
So all K's is great. All K's is fine. So we have Kieran. We found that one. Oh boy. A singer named after a singer.
Okay.
Not that I loved the singer, but I loved the name.
Mm-hmm.
And he's named his middle name is Leonard after that's my dad's middle name.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, yep, we're on the K path now.
Now you're locked in.
Now our path is set, right? Yeah. We weren't done at 3 or 4 or 5. Well,
Okay. So we're at Kevin, Carissa, Kieran.
Cody.
Yeah.
Love the sound of it. I don't know where it even came from. I mean, Cody's
sounds
a common
Western,
name.
and you guys are kind of Western.
Tough, yeah. And he fits his name perfectly. He's spelled with a K, right? Cody with a K is not the normal spelling of it. Cody Oren. Oren is also a dear family friend, middle name of a dear family friend.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who stood for Al, for his best man. It's his best man's middle name.
Okay.
And his best man's like, why did you saddle him with such an stupid, unusual name that nobody ever knows how to spell? And we're like, hey.
It's a middle name. It's fine.
We were honoring you by using this middle name. Don't you diss it. So yeah, no, it's great. So Cody Oren. And then we're picking names for our 5th and coming up with I don't remember the names we had chosen. But then, I'm full term. I'm overdue. I'm in labor. My labor stops. This is a story for another day, but I'm going to just give a very brief overview of that. I end up going in for an ultrasound and they say there's no heartbeat. And at that moment, I'm like, I want this baby to have a name right now. And it was like after I left the ultrasound, I'm like, I want this baby to have a name between now and when he or she is born. I didn't know a gender.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, we need a name that's gender neutral and that we can use right now. Cause we had never had at that time, this was 28 years ago or something. Trust me, my math skills are terrible. So it's somewhere around that ballpark.
It's fine. We won't fact check.
25. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. More than 25. I know that. So we're like Kelly. We're using Kelly. If it's a boy, we're going to spell it one way, like the traditional boy spelling. If it's a girl, we're going to spell it with IE, kind of a girl spelling. Mm-hmm. We did not give her a middle name after the hindsight thing, right? We're like in the throes of trying to process delivering a baby who is not alive. Mm-hmm. And they're like, do you have a middle name? And I'm like, blank. Well, later I was like, Joy. Why didn't I use Joy? Like a year later, or not even a year, probably a month later. I'm like, why didn't I use Joy? She was like, she came down to the hospital. She held our baby. She was the biggest support in the universe. you know, and I'm like, why didn't I put Joy on there? Well, so in my brain, I say Kelly Joy, although it's not on the certificate.
It doesn't have to be legal. You can still do it.
Exactly. So, and now Joy has gone on to glory. And when she was dying, I was like, dude, say hi to my baby, you know, and when Joy died, I was like, save me a seat. That's the last thing I said to her. 'Cause it ain't going to be long, honey. You know, even if it's 20 or 30 or whatever years, it goes by.
Yeah, it's still
like that life is a vapor thing, you know?
Yep, for sure.
So,
all right.
Kelly. Next is Cassidy. We were blessed with a beautiful girl. Cassidy was a little over, like 15 months or something later. And she healed my soul. My soul was so broken. Not, you know, it's hard to describe the feeling of empty arms. But Cassidy was like breath of fresh air to my wounded heart.
Just a little question. Did they back then call them rainbow babies, or is that a new thing?
I think it's a newer thing. I don't remember that term at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember that term at the time. I've used it since then, but I don't think it was actually at that time. Common parlance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cassidy Rose is named after my mother-in-law. Al's mom is Sharon Rose. So her middle name is after her grandma.
And she's born on my birthday.
Cassidy's on your birthday. That's right. So special link there too. I forgot about that. I remember it when it comes around, but obviously I just forgot right now.
It's fine.
Yeah. Next is Kenzie, and her name is, I don't know. I love the sound of it. I love the feeling of it. Kenzie Marie. And she's named after a couple of people. Her middle name is a couple of people. My mother's middle name was Marie. So her grandma's middle name. Also, her godmother's middle name is Marie. So she's got double whammy middle name.
Double blessing.
Double blessing middle name points. Yep. Kenzie. Yeah. And then we had Kierce. And we were debating, like, Kierce. That's kind of gender neutral. I've heard it used both ways. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how I even heard that name or whatever, where it came from. I don't remember.
He's the only one I know. I don't know any other Kierce.
Right. Well, and maybe we made it up. I honestly don't know where it came from. I can't put a, bam on it. Like a pin.
But do you even call him Kierce?
No. So here's the thing. His name is Kierce Charles, right? His middle name is Al's dad, my father-in-law. His name is Charles. So he's named after his grandpa. So here's the thing. All of my boys had a nickname of Charlie. I called my little boys when they were like 1, 2 toddlers, running around, Charlie Brown. Let's go, Charlie Brown. Let's go, Charlie Brown. Mm-hmm. That was my little pet name for my boys. They all had other pet names as well, but those were specifically a pet name that I used for every boy. Mm-hmm. So Charlie Brown became Charlie because of Kierce Charles. So he was called Charlie, and he was 7.5 when our next caboose son came along. And Charlie had stuck like glue by that time. So our baby youngest son is named Cash, and his first name is, again, like the sound of it. Didn't want C-A-S-H Cash because, we have K's, right? So,
yeah.
Yep. So we have K. And then his middle name is Aldrich, after one of my uncles. And yeah, those names are, Kierce still gets called Charlie, it's like, I list off my names and I'm like, what's his real name? What's his real name? Sometimes if I'm in a stressful situation, I know his name. Love you, Charlie, if you listen to this podcast, and I know your name is Kierce, but sometimes I told him. So about maybe 10, 12 years ago-ish, he's like, I really would like to be called Kierce. And so we're like trying to make the switch to use Kierce if that's what he wanted, right? Mm-hmm. And So, and I'm like, please forgive me, Charles, because, and we call him Charlie, we call him Charles as well. I'm like, please forgive me, Charles, because my mouth just says Charles or Charlie. Like, I don't mean to.
It's hard to break the habit, right?
Exactly.
But the thing is, so I kind of appreciate the large families doing that, because I haven't been around a lot for a number of years. We live on the opposite coast, but I could still go Kevin, Chris, Akir, and Cody,
Yeah.
I leave out Kelly, of course, but Cassie, Kenzie,
Charlie.
Like it's not, Charlie doesn't fit. You have to use Keir.
I know, right?
In order to like rattle them off.
So names. Yeah. I love names, and they all have significance. Yeah.
Great. That's great. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did any of these kids do anything particularly early or late that stood out?
So one of them walked very early, and he didn't actually walk. He ran. He couldn't stand up, and he couldn't walk, but he would climb up on a piece of furniture, and then he would run to another piece of furniture, like trying to keep his balance, run. As long as his feet stayed under him, he was good.
Yeah.
But if he stopped in the middle of the floor, he fell over, like plopped down on his bum because he couldn't actually stand and balance. And he was like 9 months, 9.5 months, something so young.
Wow.
Yeah. And then particularly late, some of them had a little bit of speech, like not necessarily that they didn't talk, but that they weren't clear. Their speech wasn't.
Yeah.
Or they had a letter that they dropped. The whole can't say your S's or can't say your R's or whatever,
Yeah.
those kinds of things, but
which
not
I think
particularly. I know it is totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Did you use cloth diapers and make your own baby food and things of that nature?
Oh, Stacey, I was a crunchy mom before it was cool. Not by choice. Not because I wanted to. So, when I had my first kids, cloth diapers were disposable diapers were very expensive. They were not as economical, right? So we used cloth diapers because they were cheaper. You bought a set of cloth diapers and you just washed them over and over and over and over and over and over. You could use them for the whole time of diapering.
Yeah.
You might have to buy a few more if you wear them out, or lose them or whatever. But yeah, cloth diapers. We did not have a washer and dryer in our apartment. So we had to go to either a laundromat, or we would always, when we did family dinner at my in-laws, we lived near Al's parents. We were in Minnesota, so we were away from my family. And so when we'd go to get together with them, visit or dinner or whatever, I always brought a load of laundry to do while we were there visiting. So yeah, cloth diapers, no washer and dryer.
Thanks for having us over for dinner. Here's my dirty diapers.
And let me go wash some diapers. And my mother-in-law, bless her heart, was so gracious and so welcoming and so like, you do it. She was like, yeah wash them,
Yeah.
Anytime you come on over. And
so when it got more affordable and you were more financially stable, the minute you could, you switched straight up to...
Oh, yes. And then baby food. I mean, Foley food mill, right? I don't know if you know the term Foley food mill, but that's an old hand crank. It had a little bowl on the top of it, had a tube.
I had one.
And a bowl. Yeah. And you ground crank. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Foley food mill. And also that, as soon as I was able to afford a bottle of Gerber, believe me, the Foley food mill went on the shelf and I never looked at it again.
I actually loved mine, because the reason I loved it is because it was a good transition. I feel like the baby food's great for on the go, but when you're at home and you're sitting down to eat family dinner and you crank your stuff through there and feed the baby like that way.
Yeah.
For at home, they're really nice. I mean, I wouldn't want to travel and sustain life off of it, but they're handy.
Hey, now don't you be answering this question. These are my questions.
Oh, sorry. It's not my turn.
Not your turn to talk.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Without using names, did any of your kids wet the bed? And if so, till what age?
Yes. It was more like, we were gone way too late, or they didn't go before they went to bed or whatever. So it wasn't a real thing, and it wasn't a super old age. It was like maybe 6. I don't know. I'm totally, I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, 22.
Nothing horrible.
Nothing extreme, but yes. Yep.
Did you let your kids sleep in your bed?
No.
Never.
Well, so with my first, I was a more, follow the rules bum. So instead of bringing my child into bed with me to nurse, I got up and sat in a rocking chair and nursed my baby and then put him back in the crib and then went back to bed. And then when my next child was born 15 months later, my firstborn was 15 months when my second came along, and I was sleep deprived and, trying to burn the candle at both ends. Of course, we were still young. We still had a great group of friends. We socialized a lot. We visited a lot. We hung out a lot with friends. Burnt the candle at both ends, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
And besides 2 kids, 15 months and under, I was like, pull this newborn into bed and lay down and nurse and trust that I'm not going to, smother her in her sleep. Like,
So the only time you ever did have kids in your bed is when you were nursing them.
Nursing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And very, very occasionally other than that, like if they would come in and like had a super bad nightmare or something, we had a little bed set, not a bed, a mat sort of thing on the floor with some blankets and a pillow by our bed.
Mm-hmm.
That was in our room by our bed, by my side of the bed, where if they came in with a nightmare, they could stay down there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they would come crawl in with me after Al went to work. If I was back in bed, they'd come crawl in and just, snooze for a little bit in the morning, which I was like, yes, please come. Otherwise you're going to be begging me for breakfast. Just come snooze for a bit and I can catch 20 more winks. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So none of them slept with you till they were old or anything. All right. Do any of your kids have a disability?
No.
How about any allergies?
No.
Okay.
Well, one of our kids had a reaction to like bee sting or in some kind of bee or hornet or I don't know what it was, an insect.
Yeah.
Bee, something. It wasn't like anaphylaxis, but it was very scary. He started, his broke up with spots on his face and like it immediately started swelling his face and lips and whatever. And I was like,
Ooh,
heading for the pharmacy to get Benadryl and like urgent care or whatever. We didn't actually end up going to urgent care. We administered the Benadryl because the Benadryl was closer than the urgent care. So we gave the Benadryl.
And it works pretty quick, hey?
Yeah, we actually somebody was there that had Benadryl.
Yeah.
So they gave him the Benadryl. We started driving to the urgent care and we were going to pick up more Benadryl. So we're like, by the time we got to town, which was, 15 minutes away or something.
Yeah.
By the time we got there, he was already swelling going down, and so we didn't actually end up going in. But
yeah.
So then that was like, do we like get and I believe he's been stung since with, he might get honestly, I don't know. I'm like, has he been stung since as an adult and had not that bad of a reaction? It actually happened in Michigan. So I'm like, are the bees in Michigan what he's allergic to and not the bees in like, I don't know. And like I said, maybe he's had reactions since.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
You have to ask him now that we're thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So did you or your husband ever pretend to be the tooth fairy, elf on a shelf, Santa, the Easter bunny, anything like that?
Yes, tooth fairy.
Okay.
Our tooth fairy was a pretty unfaithful, pathetic tooth fairy. Sometimes she forgot.
Was it because you live so far out in the woods?
Yes. I mean, you live in backwoods of Amboy or Yakul. Sometimes the tooth fairy takes a couple days, Like, dude. Just, yeah. She was pretty.
Did the fairy get like a little bit more sketchy the more kids you had, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Yes, more sketchy. And honestly, the children became more skeptical. Pretty early on, they're like, Mom, this tooth fairy thing. And I'm like, I cannot tell a lie. To go get $1 out of my purse.
It's me all along. I'm the fairy.
Yeah. And so then, yeah, like Santa, Easter Bunny, we never really did Santa gifts. So occasionally I would do like an Easter basket thingy, but it wasn't like from the Easter Bunny. It was just like, here's a cool Easter basket because it's Easter and the resurrection. And I don't really, my own personal, like Santa, to me, Christmas is about Jesus, not Santa. Not saying St. Nicholas wasn't a historical figure that gave gifts, and that's all great and good, but I don't love the commercialization of it. I don't love the commercialization of the Easter Bunny. To me, Easter is about the resurrection of our Lord. So none of those, and I know, we can have Easter baskets and Easter bunnies and still celebrate the resurrection, but for me, there's like kind of I just don't love those other commercial, because they get so commercialized.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That's fair.
Yep.
Have any of your kids ever had lice?
We have had, I don't even know the term. It's like eggs.
Yeah.
We were notified from school, right? Somebody in your kid's grade has head lice, and we're like, ugh. We have a bunch of kids.
And that's when you decided to homeschool.
Right? It was probably, so yeah, we did a lot of, no, it wasn't at all.
Yeah.
I never found a nit or bug or whatever they call them. Is it nit? That's the little bug.
I think so.
See, I don't even know the terminology.
Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't like a whole infestation.
We combed, we washed sheets and bedding and vacuumed and did all that stuff. And we combed and checked. But we found a few eggs and you're like, is that an egg? I don't even know if it's, I don't know. So no. Yes, I think we did, but it was not and we had treatments, we had like the shampoos and the whatever, and we never had a big, which theoretically could have been a disaster because we had a lot of kids and we had a lot of girls with long, thick hair and boys with very thick, not long like the girls' hair, but long enough that, most of my boys' hair is very thick.
Yeah.
Some, I should say maybe like half and half or whatever, but yeah.
Did you use time out for your kids?
Sometimes, yes.
Do you think it worked?
Yes. In certain personalities, especially. And sometimes it's just not even the personality, but it's just like when there's maybe a house full of kids and there's a lot of noise and commotion and activity and things going on like that. And your kid just needs like a
moment.
And just like go lay on your bed for 5 minutes and just breathe. Like, get your, Yeah.
So what form of discipline worked best for your family?
So I am some people would think I'm a very firm disciplinarian. I had pretty rigid standards. My kids were required to obey. That's it. They didn't have an option because I'm the boss. You're not. When you're an adult, then you can do what you want. But until you leave my home, me and your dad are the boss. And there is no other option. So, my oldest kids did get, what do they call that? Capital punishment? Corporal punishment. What is it?
Yeah.
Like they did get spanked.
Yeah.
Not beat.
Yeah.
Not in anger.
Yeah.
Not in abuse. Not in, crazy, like, people are going to react to this. If you have a problem with what I did, email whosegirlareyou@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I believe in discipline. I believe that a child without discipline is constantly searching for where is that line where I can't go any further. It's like the guardrail on the side of the road. And there's a cliff on the other side. You can play freely up until you bump the guardrail. If you go over if there's no guardrail there, you're going to go over the cliff. And then it's going to be bad and you're going to be hurt. These are protections. You have to learn how to control your emotions and your actions and your responses to things. Like you can't just lay on the floor. I don't care if you're 2.5. You are not allowed to lay on the floor and kick your feet and scream your full head off. Right now, you need to learn. This is the days 2, 3, 4, 5. You're learning self-control. And it is going to serve you in good stead for the rest of your life, because otherwise you're going to be 12 and you're going to be kicking and screaming.
Mm.
And that is not allowed. And it's not good for you. It's not that I don't like it. It's that it's not good for you, my child.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn to control yourself, because when your boss tells you something, you are not allowed to lay on the floor and kick and scream, or you're going to not have a job. That's okay. You can do that, but you're not going to have a job.
Jordan Peterson says, don't let your kids do anything that makes you hate them.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I believe that discipline is necessary for children. I believe that's part of our problem today. Honestly, I'm an old mom, and people are going to say, oh, she's old fashioned and fuddy duddy and, whatever. I have spectacular children. My children are well behaved, well-rounded, responsible, adult members of society. My kids rock the world. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything.
Proud mom moment. Yeah.
Proud mom moment. I have great
But you're
kids.
on the other side of it now though, too.
Yes,
like you've already, you can speak to this now because you're on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
Your youngest is 15, So.
Absolutely. And so I will say that my older children were disciplined more than my younger children, because when you discipline the first one and the first two, by the time number 3 comes along, he or she learns from number 1 and number 2. Like, this is just how we do things in this house.
This is the example.
Yeah, This is the example. Say, this is how we do bedtime routine. Whatever that bedtime routine is, they learn it by osmosis.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be disciplined into it.
Mm-hmm.
So stick it out with the first 1 or 2, and trust me, 7, 8, 9 all the way down is much easier.
7, 8, 9. You're crazy.
Hey, I wouldn't trade a single one, man.
No, I'm sure. Like with, my father-in-law, he had 12, and he said, every time someone would say, oh, you shouldn't have that many kids, he'd say, which one should I give back?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Amen.
Anyway. Homeschool, private school, public school, all the schools, like which one did you use and why?
All of the above.
Without making this its own podcast.
Yeah, exactly. All of the above.
Okay.
At different times, for different children, different circumstances. Yeah.
I think you're the one that taught me,
flexibility, man.
You said, I think you told me one time, and this really served me well. 1 year at a time, one kid at a time.
Yep.
What's the best at that time for that kid?
Yep.
And you don't have to, just because you put one in private doesn't mean all of them go, or one's homeschool doesn't mean all of them have to go. And that really helped me.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What has been your favorite family trip, or most memorable, best, favorite, whatever? Like, what's the one that you guys talk about probably the most?
So we did a trip for my father and mother-in-law's 50th wedding anniversary to a cabin, a resort on a lake in Minnesota. It's cabins. It's not a resort as in, don't think, champagne.
Not bougie?
No bougie.
Okay.
These are rustic cabins.
All right.
But there's a lot of fishing. There's a lot of sitting around the bonfires, like it's rustic living in Minnesota. I mean, they're not rustic as in they don't have power and indoor toilets. They're just little log cabin-y sort of things. Cute as ever. So my youngest was not born yet, so he wasn't there, but everybody else of my kids were there. And when we left that trip, we're driving out of there. My maybe like somewhere around the age of 9-year-old daughter kind of heaves this big sigh, and she's like, oh, that was the best time of my entire life. And I'm thinking, you're 9 years old and it's all downhill from here. To that point.
Yeah.
But yes, that family trip. And I want to tell you a little secret. We're going back to that place, same place, for my husband and I's 40th anniversary trip.
That's special. Yeah.
And we've put this in place for a couple of years,
Yeah, and the baby has never been there, so.
Yes.
The 15-year-old baby.
Yes, the 15-year-old baby has never been there, but he's heard stories and seen pictures, and now we're going to get to experience it. This is not my in-laws. This is mine and Al's, us and our kids and grandkids, our family,
Yeah.
So we're like counting the days, and we're planning all the things, and we're putting together, yeah.
Yeah.
Such an exciting time.
And I know, you only have X amount of kids, but when almost all of them are married, right? Except for one?
Yeah. Oh, two.
Two. All but two.
Yeah. Cash is 15.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right, Charlie.
But then
Cash.
Yep. Charlie and Cash are not married, but most of them are. And most of them have kids, so.
And most of them have kids. So, like, what's the number count on that?
Somewhere like 26, maybe?
Yeah.
Or my maths, I promise.
Okay, but that's going to be a good group, though. Like, you can do a lot of fun stuff. I mean, with that many people, you can play baseball. You know, you can do a lot of things. So that's fun.
Yep.
Awesome. I hope you have a great time. All right. So, can you think of anything about parenthood that surprised you? Took you off guard, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had my first, and you know, I don't know that, I mean, there are surprises, obviously. I can't think of any off the top of my head with my first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved my firstborn so much that when I was pregnant for my secondborn, I'm like, how am I going to love another baby? Like my love's going to get cut in half, and now I'm going to love half as much two kids rather than, like, I love my firstborn so much. And when my secondborn comes, like, I have to take away some of the love from my firstborn to give to my secondborn. But love doesn't work like that. Love multiplies. I love my secondborn just as much as I love my firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like that. The love just multiplies.
Yeah. Love does not divide. It multiplies.
Yes.
Do you have one word of advice that you would give to a new mom? Someone that maybe has a newborn or is getting ready to have their first kid? One word of advice.
Hang in there and enjoy the moments. I know everybody's like, yeah, baby moments go so fast, babyhood, but it really does. It's a super intense, yeah. It goes fast. Reach out for help, man. If you need help, reach out for help. That's it for me.
Well, Lois, thank you for doing 20 questions on raising kids.
Absolutely.
All right. So here we are, 20 questions with Amanda. All right. So we have 20 questions for raising kids.
Not that I'm an expert, but I do have 3 of them.
Yeah, and you're welcome to, if there's a story that goes along with a question or whatever, you can expound on it. So you don't have to feel like you have to hold back.
Okay.
How old were you when you had your first child?
I was 27.
Okay.
I didn't get married till I was 25. And as I had previously stated in your podcast, I was in the military when I had my first. So we waited a few years after we got married.
You probably had a little different experience than the typical Finn, get married, have kids.
Yeah.
Just a bit different. Yes. Did you have an idea of how many kids you wanted before you had any?
I originally wanted 4. That was my number.
Yeah.
And how many did you have?
3.
Are you done?
Done.
Done.
No more babies coming out of this one. So me and my husband have always said that there could be the possibility someday down the road we could foster and whatever that looks like, but biologically we are done.
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever had a C-section or a VBAC?
I had a C-section with my last one.
Okay.
I had cholestasis of pregnancy with her. They found it at 36 weeks. That's when your hands are really itchy, your feet get really itchy, your liver is secreting bile into your bloodstream. It can be very dangerous for the baby. And at 37 weeks, they decided to induce me. They put a Foley balloon in. I don't know if you know what that is. They put the Foley balloon in. Yep. It dilated my cervix. And then she did a somersault, broke my water, and was completely breech.
Oh, no.
So I got to the hospital. The doctor was like, I need to see this, just because she couldn't even believe it, because she literally felt her head that afternoon and did an ultrasound. They're completely head up, no longer head down, and they did an emergency C-section. I got to the hospital at 1:46. She had broke my water a little after 12:30, and I was like full-blown contractions.
Oh, my word.
Very much in very active labor. So I got to the hospital at 1:46. She was out at 3:03.
Wow.
And she's been giving you a run for your money ever since.
Ever since. She's 6 now, and she is a handful. So yes, I did have a C-section with my last one.
Okay. Do you think your kids look more like you or their father?
People tell me I make little clones.
Okay.
They all look alike, but Isaiah looks, my oldest, he's be 11 next month. He looks a lot like his father, and he is his father incarnate. Their personalities are almost identical. And so it's very hard to like not see his father in him when he acts exactly like his dad. Wayne is our middle child. He just turned 8 in April. He looks a lot more like my mom's family. He actually looks like, when he was really little, he looked a lot like my brother Leroy. He has a little bit darker hair. All three of them have dark eyes. So he looks the most like my mom's family. And then Annabelle looks like me, who looks like my mom.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
yeah, there's a lot of my mom's family in them, but Isaiah's definitely looks the most like his dad.
Yeah. Okay. Who chose your kids' names?
So me and my husband didn't get married until I was 25 and he was 24, but we were best friends from about the time we were like 14, 15. And when he was 17, we never dated. We never dated up until we pretty much got married. He told me when he was 17, he said his firstborn son would be named Isaiah Jamin. And when I married him 8 years later, and then, 3 years after that, 10 years after he told me that, and we found out we were having a boy, I couldn't really tell him that he could no longer name his firstborn son what he had been planning on naming him long before I was ever the mother of his firstborn son. So he picked the name for Isaiah, and then at that point we made the agreement that he would name the boys and I would name the girls.
Mm-hmm.
So technically he also named Wayne Leroy, but he is named after my brother, and he's also named after Jamin's great-grandfather, Wayne.
Okay.
And I, as a little girl, when I was about 8 years old, I was having twins. That was, because you can pick those things.
Oh,
That was the dream.
yes.
I was having twins, and one of them was going to be named Annabelle Joy, and the other one was going to be named Angelina Rose. And most of my childhood into adulthood, my family can testify, we tried to figure out how you would spell Angelina. So if you have any ideas of how you would spell that, I literally made it up as a kid, but we never did figure out how to spell Angelina. So Angelina Rose never became a reality, but my youngest girl's name is Annabelle Joy.
Oh, cute. All right. Did any of your kids do anything particularly early or late?
Well, Annabelle walked late. She didn't walk until she was 15 months old.
Okay.
And I was like, at this point, I remember taking her to the doctors at her 15-month checkup, and the doctor's like, if she's not walking by like the next checkup, like we really need to start like looking into this. She's perfectly fine. She has no issues like walking, running, coordination, nothing. She just, I don't know, does things on her own beat or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's like her mom or something.
I don't know, maybe. But Isaiah had walked at 11 months. And Wayne walked late. He was 14 months, but Annabelle was like being 15 months not walking. I was like, what is wrong with this child?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would probably really be the only thing. I mean, I think they all kind of talked on schedule and stuff.
Okay, but don't you have one kid that is doing complex math
well-
a little early?
I didn't really think about that. I mean, I guess multiplication at 3
That's
years
just
old
normal.
is normal.
Well, when you're around such intelligent people all the time.
This is true. Okay, so Wayne and Isaiah are both extremely good at math.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne has outpaced Isaiah, but Wayne and Isaiah were both doing multiplication before kindergarten.
Wow.
And it was funny because when Isaiah started kindergarten, they were like trying to asking how like assess things or whatever. And I was like, well, he understands number concepts like into like the millions. And they're like, what? Like, I'm like, well, he understands numbers get bigger than he can comprehend them.
Yeah.
They're like, no, they didn't really believe me until they believed me. Isaiah was like in kindergarten and he was like, Mom, what's a number that starts with Q? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, well, it's like in money. He's like playing a game. And I was like, a quarter? He's like, no, Mom, it's like bigger than a trillion. And I'm like, quadrillion? He's like, yeah, that one. And I'm like, no, like you are in kindergarten. Like this is not, like quadrillion is not a number that you need to worry about. Like, but
Yeah.
No, Wayne is going into 3rd grade. He can do algebraic equations. He can.
Wow.
I remember last year, no, he was in 1st grade and he was talking to a 7th grader in school, and they go to a small Christian school, and he was talking to one of the 7th graders, and he was like asking him, like, do you know the square root of 400? He's like, what? He goes, the square root of 400. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you know, like 20, square root of 400. He's like 20 times 20 makes 400. So the square root of 400 is 20. And the 7th grader's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he was confused by this 1st grader who's like trying to get him to comprehend the square root of 20.
What square root even means.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So yeah, I guess, sorry, Stacey, I didn't really,
No, it's fine. I mean, when you're around so much genius, it's hard to spot it.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I get it.
This year I was Isaiah's teacher because I teach 5th and 6th grade, and I did actually make him do pre-algebra after he finished.
And then she probably taught him Farsi for fun as well.
Well, you know, throw it in there. I did actually show him how to write numbers in Farsi because why not?
Right?
They just love numbers. Isaiah literally could not learn his alphabet because he didn't like letters. In kindergarten, Isaiah did not know his alphabet starting kindergarten. Yeah. So we had this really long hallway. So I wrote all of the letters on a piece of paper going all the way down the hallway. And eventually one day I noticed that he had written numbers. He'd labeled them 1 to 26 all the way down the hallway. And after a little while, he'd be like, Mom, what is 13 called? And I'm like, 13 what? He's like 13, letter 13. Letter. What is that called? And I'm like, M? He's like, yeah. So Mom is 13, 13. I'm like, no, it's M-O-N. No. So I had to learn all of the letters correlating with what
the number letters. Yes, the letter numbers.
Because he would be literally spelling something out and randomly throw out like a letter in the middle, like a number in the middle of it because he didn't know of the letter because he just realized what number it was.
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
that's so
moving
cool.
on.
We should do a whole podcast on that because that's so cool.
On my random boys numbers.
Well, just kids and the way they think. It's so fascinating. Sure. I love it. That's what I love about kids' brains. Mm-hmm. They're just fantastic.
Yeah. Sometimes you're like, how did you come up with that? That doesn't make sense.
But there's a connection. There's always a connection if you can figure out how it came out.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Did you use cloth diapers and make your own baby food?
Cloth diapers, never in 100 years. Like, not even close to even entertaining that thought ever. I did make my own baby food, like buy the sweet potato and cook it and puree it and freeze it and do all that for a little while. And then I was like, yeah, this isn't really
sustainable.
Worth it. Like, way cheaper, but yeah. I was working. I was a full-time working mom with my first, so I was stay at home with my next two. And by the time they came along, I was like, yeah, no, I'm just buying the food. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I did try with my first, didn't really have time or energy to deal with that. I was like, ooh, look, I bought a sweet potato for $1. Ooh, look, baby food's $1. We're good. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And I'm not a crunchy mom. Like, I don't know. I'm like Stacey. Yeah. I don't necessarily want to know what's in it. And as long as I don't know, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. You get healthy food, but within reason.
Right, for sure.
Exactly. Without using names, did any of your kids wet the bed?
I have one that still does.
Okay. I was going to say till what age, but we just won't answer that.
Truthfully, I have one of my kids has a gluten sensitivity, and I can say her name. It's fine because she has a gluten sensitivity and it affects her bladder. So it gives her incontinence if she is affected by gluten. We didn't know this until she was over the age of 4. She did not fully potty train until halfway through being 4 years old. And even now at 6, she still has issues with her bladder, but a lot of it is related to gluten issues. Mm-hmm. Like if she gets exposed to gluten, she will almost always wet the bed. And pee multiple times throughout the day. And so it's kind of an interesting question because it's not the typical, but we do deal with it a lot with her because of her bladder issues.
That's a great correlation. I did not know that. Like a lot of people probably do not know that. Right. So we'll just leave it there and people can Google the heck out of that and figure it out.
If you do Google it, you will find it. We took her off of gluten because of her skin issues. We didn't realize that her bladder issues were related to it. We were just like pulling her hair out why she couldn't potty train by the time she was 4. And she was completely poop trained at 2. She never once had an accident that way. It was just she could not hold her pee. And once we took her off the gluten for her skin issues, her skin cleared up and her bladder issues started to get better. So,
wow.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Who knew?
I know. We didn't.
All right. Did your kids sleep in your bed?
All 3 of them. So at first, Isaiah was not sleeping in our bed, our oldest. I put him down in the crib, and the problem was, not really a problem, that I had Isaiah 3 days a week. My husband had Isaiah 3 days a week. I was in the military. I was working. He was working. We had a rotating shift. And on the days that I was working, my husband did 100% of the night duties. He did the night feeding, the night changing. If he was up in the night, my husband did it. And I would put him to bed in the crib, and Jamin just did not want him sleeping in the crib. He wanted him to sleep with him. So he would pull him into our bed. And the nights that I wasn't taking care of him, I really didn't feel like I had a whole lot of say to be like, he has to be in the crib. Like, I'm not dealing with it. I'm like, so eventually, instead of this yo-yo, it just got to be too bed confusing for Isaiah, and he ended up just sleeping with us. Yeah. And then at that point, we just rolled with that. And 2 days ago, we still had our 6-year-old in our bed. So,
So you don't have an age cutoff?
No, not really. No, it just kind of funny story, our soon to be 11-year-old, this was only probably 3 or 4 months ago. Our middle child ended up in our bed because he had a migraine, and our baby ended up in our bed. She's 6, but she ended up in our bed because she had some issue. And our oldest was like, Wayne got to sleep in your bed, and then Annabelle got to sleep in your bed. And I was like, Bud, do you want to sleep with Mom and Dad? He's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, okay. And we were like, all right. I was like, Friday night. And so he's like, Friday. Yep. So then that whole week, he's like, Friday, I'm still sleeping with you without Wayne and Annabelle, right? And I was like, yep. So Friday rolled around. He's a fully grown child now. He is size 6
fully grown man.
He is size 6 feet. Like, he's not small.
Yeah.
He's right in between Mom and Dad, just going to bed. Next morning, we wake up and Jamin's like, hey, Bud, how'd you sleep? He's like, best night of sleep ever. He was just in his glory. So, they all still want to sleep in Mom and Dad's bed.
That's so great. Awesome. All right. Do any of your kids have a disability?
No, not that we know of. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Do any of your kids have an allergy to anything?
Annabelle is allergic to gluten. She is also very dairy sensitive. They don't have any traditional anaphylactic allergies that we have ever encountered, but Annabelle definitely is affected by gluten. She had very bad eczema on her elbows and behind her knees, to the point where it was very itchy. She would scratch it. She would be bleeding. It was weeping. A lot of the times it was open and weeping eczema, and so that's why we ended up taking her off the gluten.
And typically when you see those kind of skin reactions too, they're usually having some kind of emotional reactions to it as well. So they can be really difficult to deal with. And it's because they're so miserable, but they can't really express it. So
yeah.
So we knew that there was something going on. We thought it was dairy because she was allergic to dairy early on. She would dairy makes her vomit and gives her an upset stomach. But we didn't realize till she was 4 that actually it was gluten that was causing the skin issues.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever pretend to be the Tooth Fairy, Elf on the Shelf, Santa, or the Easter Bunny?
Well, Isaiah figured out pretty early that most of those things don't exist. The one thing that we've never really done is Santa Claus. Like my parents didn't do Santa Claus. I don't do Santa Claus. I love like Father Christmas and like Santa as a character, but we never pretended that he was real.
Yeah.
Wayne is far too logical to believe in any of it. The idea that there would be a tooth fairy is like the most like ridiculous thing he's ever heard in his entire life. Like there is no way. Like I think Stacey probably has people in her family that would relate to that. Like it's just absurd to him that you would ever even have an inkling to believe in any of those types of things. Like that's just ridiculous. Yeah. Whereas Annabelle is my youngest and she wants to believe in all of the things and like she believes in the tooth fairy and, you know, so like Wayne literally he'll pull out a tooth and Jamin will be like, throw in the trash, here's $1. You know, like he pays him for his teeth, but he doesn't even put it under his pillow. Whereas like Jamin forgot to do Annabelle's tooth the other day, like a couple weeks ago, and she was just devastated and she was just and I told her, I said, you know what? It's probably because you were sleeping in the boys' room and not in your own room. Yeah. You need to sleep in your own room.
The tooth fairy didn't know where to find you.
Yeah. Like they made signs to show the tooth fairy where it was.
That's actually a really great thing. You know, it's like never waste a good crisis, right? Like be like, well, if you'd sleep in your own bed, maybe you would get money for your teeth.
Exactly. You know, so, but no, like we don't really do a ton of it just because even if we tried, Wayne would be like, no, it's a lie. I don't believe
You're ridiculous. Yeah. You need all the kids to buy in or none of them are going to buy in. Yeah. But Annabelle's like, I don't care what y'all think. I'm believing whatever I want.
Exactly. She's like, no, it's true. I seen it on TV. It's true.
Oh, that's funny. Have any of your kids ever had lice?
No, thankfully that's one we've avoided.
There you
so
go.
So
far, so good. Did you use timeout?
Yes. We have, Isaiah's very, very sensitive, our oldest. If he thinks he does something wrong, that's like the most devastating thing in his entire life. So we have disciplined him very, very, sparingly. Partly because he doesn't need discipline. He's very well behaved. He's very, like, wants to do the right thing all of the time. And partly because, like I said, if he thought he did something wrong, then he's just an emotional, complete fiasco. And so you can't even punish him more than he's going to punish himself.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But our middle child had more like frustration issues. He'd get really, really frustrated. He'd be trying to play something and he would get really mad. And so for him, we did more timeout for when he was like having these frustrated meltdowns. And timeout for him was in his bed. We would have him go lay in his bed for a set amount of time. That's where I ended up doing timeout for our daughter as well. Like they just would do timeout in their bed. My aunt Debbie had originally said that that's like one of the things that she found was like timeout in bed was better because when they're really little, sometimes they just fall asleep because they really just needed a nap. So if you time them out in their bed, sometimes they just would take the nap that they needed.
Which solves all the problems.
So I kind of adopted it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Exactly.
So it kind of worked for you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we never really needed to do beyond timeout as a punishment. So that worked out.
Yeah. So that was going to be the next question. What form of discipline worked best for your family? Mm-hmm. So that would be.
Yeah. Anything like super extreme, like could result in like a hair pull or anything like that. But like we literally, all three of our children, we've never spanked them, like physically spanked them, but they've never like pushed us to the point where they've needed it. We have pretty well behaved children. And I did have the rule when they were little. I said, I will not spank a child that's still in diapers. I think that's why they didn't potty train until they were 4. They knew my rule. You know, because I was just like, they're in diapers. They're too young to like really spank. Yeah. And so then like by the time they were over 4, they never really pushed us to like.
They didn't need it anymore?
They didn't really need it anymore, you know. And so, you know, occasional hair pull, not Isaiah, but the other 2.
Yeah.
All right. You may have answered this already. Homeschool, private school, or public school, and why?
Well, we started out with private school because they had half-day kindergarten. And Isaiah just really was not ready for kindergarten. He was very emotional. He was very attached. So we did half-day kindergarten at a private school. And then he went to public school for 2 years. And he was in 2nd grade when 2020 rolled around. COVID wrecked the world, and it was March. They closed down the school and he didn't go back that year. He did remote learning, which was fine. But at that point, they didn't know what they were doing. It was summer. They didn't know if they were going to mask. They didn't know if they weren't going to mask. They didn't know if they were going to open. They didn't know if it was going to be remote. They had no idea. We went back and forth that summer. And finally, I told my husband, I said, we're just going to enroll them in the private school in town, Heritage Christian School. I was like, we're just going to enroll them in private school. And if the school opens normal, Wayne was starting kindergarten, Isaiah was going in third grade. They opened the public school in the fall, and it ended up being masks and remote learning and all kinds of random chaos going on for the first. They had, they had plastic dividers. They had to stand so far apart in the hallway. So we ended up just going to the Christian school, which I never had thought we would be doing Christian school at all. And we've been there ever since. Now Annabelle's going into first grade, Wayne's going into third grade, Isaiah's going to sixth grade. And then last year I took a teaching position, teaching fifth and sixth grade. So I was actually Isaiah's teacher all year last year, and I will be again this year.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yes. What has been your favorite family trip?
Probably when we went to Destin, Florida. So we rented this giant house that had 8 master bedrooms. It had 8 king-size beds with a bathroom in each room. It had a pool. It had a hot tub. It was 2-minute walk to the beach. And there was 8 families that rented this house with us. And there was, 16 adults and, if I remember correctly, 17 kids, ages I think at that point they were 6 and under. Every kid, the oldest kid was 6, and we had 3 kids, and Annabelle was baby, and it was awesome because nobody actually wanted to go anywhere. We didn't want to go and be doing all of these things because we all had babies. So we all just hung out, and we'd put the babies to bed, and you'd have 8 monitors, and we would just hang out in the game room, and all the adults would play whatever games and poker and pool and go in the hot tub at and all the kids were right there in the house, and you didn't have to because in a hotel you don't really want to go out because you stay in the room so that was probably one of our favorite vacations ever.
That is very cool. I like that idea. I think other people are going to hear that and say, hey, we can still do a vacation.
You can, yeah. It was a lot of fun. The kids
that's
loved
great.
it.
Okay. Can you think of anything about parenthood that surprised you?
I think the most surprising part was how hard it was to have your first baby. You think what you're going to be in for. And I always compared it to running as hard as you can into a brick wall, and then you have to try to figure out how to scale it. It just was so hard to have a baby.
Sleep.
With no sleep. I just feel I thought I would be more prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with that.
And I just wasn't.
All right. One last question. Do you have a word of advice for new moms?
I feel anything you tell them, they just don't actually believe you.
So listen to all the things. That's your word of advice for them?
Yeah,
listen
just
to other moms?
Well, because it's moms aren't trying to actually give you worst case scenario. It's just reality. It's going to be hard, but you will get through it. And just accept the help where it is. I would say to a new mom, if somebody comes over and says, I'll watch the baby go take a nap, go take the nap. If somebody says, I want to make you a meal, let them make you the food. Don't let your pride say oh, I can do this. I don't need help. If somebody's willing to help, they're only offering because they actually want to help you. They actually understand how hard it is, and you don't have to try to do everything on your own.
That's a good word of advice. That is a good word of advice right there.
Yeah. I feel pride gets in the way a lot of times, and then people are drowning and they don't need to be. I try to tell people all the time in any situation, nobody's offering to help you because they don't want to. Like if they,
It's so true.
I mean, I don't
offer to help if
I
I'm
don't
not
offer to help you if I don't want to.
No, for sure. And typically when you do want to help someone, it's because you know you've been in a similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
Someone helped you and you knew how much it meant to you. And so you're kind of doing that thing. Like that's what we're doing, right? That's
Yep, for sure.
so like, let us.
Exactly. Exactly. I get more sleep than you. I promise. I have big kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not in that anymore.
Right.
I can give of myself in a different way than I was able to. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's a great word of advice. Well, thanks for doing the 20 questions.
You are welcome.
That's awesome.
Yes, it has been good to chat with you.
You too. This is fun.
Next up, we have 20 questions about raising kids with our very own Stacey. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
How old were you when you had your first child?
23.
Nice.
I was like an old lady compared to you.
I know, right? Full-fledged adult. Did you have an idea of how many children you wanted before you had any?
Yeah, we did marriage counseling with Ray Hillman, and he had this long questionnaire that we filled out separately, and then we gave him to him. I think he sent him in like some computerized testing thing, and then it would give you back your compatibility, probably to give the pastor some, see where you were not compatible, maybe counsel in those areas a little bit more or something, premarital. And both Ed and I had not talked about how many kids we wanted to have, which probably should have been talked about because I came from a family of 2 and he came from a family of 12. But we really didn't discuss it, and we both put down 3.
Yeah.
So.
And did you have that many kids?
And we had 3, yeah, because we stick to what our plans are.
Yep, there you go. Set in stone.
No, that's just what God gave, honestly. So.
Yeah.
That's what we had, yeah.
Did you ever have a C-section?
I didn't, thank God. I never had a C-section. I never had a miscarriage. I never had any kind of trauma like that. My deliveries were traumatic, but I survived and I lived to tell the tale.
Yeah. Do you think your kids look more like you or their father?
I think they look more like me. I have stronger genes.
There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting thing though, right? Because the youngest has the same coloring as his father. The only one that is a brown-eyed brunette. The other 2 have my hazel eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah.
So we have the same coloring and even tan, the same, whatever. But just a few years ago, someone took a picture of me and I always would say the first 2 look like me and the last one looks like his father. But then I saw a picture that someone took of me and my youngest, and I don't know if it was the angle and the way we were smiling and whatever. I was like, this kid is a spitting image of me.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
So I catch glimpses of both my husband and I in all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And it's at different ages, you think they're identical to you, and then they hit a different age and you're like, no, actually they look like the other side. So I don't,
Right.
It's a weird thing.
Mm-hmm. Like those characteristics, the genetics blend and you see it come out both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who chose your kids' names and do they have special meanings?
I chose all of the kids' names.
Okay.
So my husband and I had this fun game that we played where I came up with a bunch of names and he just said no. And then, eventually you come to the place where you have the child and you have to have the name.
Right.
So eventually he can't say no anymore. You just have to pick something.
Right.
So I don't know. He never would come up with a name on his own. He never said, well, no, not that. How about this? He would just say no. I don't like that name. And even though, I'm sure my daughter knows this. So I was in the hospital delivering and I was watching tennis. And was it tennis? Is Anna Kournikova a tennis player?
No idea.
I'm pretty sure. So I was like, I was thinking of Hannah, and he said, absolutely not Hannah, because there was some girl in school, in, I don't know, elementary school that was named that was just so mean and horrible. And so he always associated that with that, right? So he was like, not Hannah. And then I saw Anna and I thought, that's similar kind of vibe. And I really liked that. And I was just like, the kid only has to learn 2 letters.
Yes.
And they can spell their name forward and backward, and it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
I actually didn't think about all that. That all came up later.
That all came later.
So the firstborn ended up being Anna Lynn. Lynn is my middle name, so I gave it to her as her middle name. And it was also my mom's middle name. And so Lynn is just a family middle name that's been passed down through the women. So now generational for that. And then the second one, he's Caleb Edward. So Edward after my husband.
Yep.
Caleb I literally was trying to find a name. I had asked around if the family that I married into is pretty large. And I said, is there any other Calebs in the family? And they all said, no, there's none.
Mm-hmm.
And picked that. And then I was in New Hampshire visiting when Caleb was 1, and something had happened where he needed to see a pediatrician. And one of my sister-in-law said, oh, here's the name of my pediatrician. Why don't you call them, see if they can get you in? And they said, yeah, come right now. I was shocked. So I get in there and fill out the paperwork, and they go to call me in. And the nurse, as we're walking down the hall toward the examining room, she says, well, he's awful small for an 8-year-old. And I said, excuse me? And she said, we have a person with the exact same name in this office. Come to find out, I get back to the house and I said, you guys, there is another Caleb, same last name here.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, yeah, that's right. Matt or someone had a kid and named him that. A year later, which you're not going to get away from that anyway. And then Caleb is such a popular name. It's actually become a joke that not almost every, but so many of the people that I've become friends with in the last 10 years have a son named Caleb.
Yeah.
So I started this. If you don't have a son named Caleb, you can't be in my club.
Yep.
But I'll let you be in my club, though.
Yeah, I tried.
So it's more of a joke.
It starts with the same sound. My kids' names do.
Thanks for close enough.
Yeah.
So then the baby, his name is Quinn Timothy, and Timothy's that's my dad's name. And Quinn was just a name in a novel that I happened to be reading when I was pregnant. He was like the hero of the story, that kind of G.I. Joe type of guy.
Yep.
He is not, in fact, a G.I. Joe type of guy. He is more of a computer guy, his father. But, I have Anna Lynn, Caleb Edward, and Quinn Timothy.
Nice. Did any of your kids do anything super early or super late?
Yes. One of my kids started reading when he was 3.
That's early?
Yeah, very early, right? They all talked really early, and I didn't know that it was early because they all did it. Right. And I would be around other people's kids and think, I wonder why they're so slow.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say anything,
No, of course.
Because I'm just like, maybe my kids are just really smart. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't even think it has to do with intellect. If you talk early or talk late, I honestly think it has zero to do with intellect now that I've been around tons of kids and lived a little bit more life and whatnot. But, my kids were all talking full sentences by 2, a year and a half, 2, very easy to understand type of thing.
So I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Did you talk baby talk to your children?
Never.
Do you think that has anything to do with it? Or maybe I should have asked the first question. Why do you think they talked so early? Or do you have a theory on that?
I mean, that is our theory. My husband and I, that we never talked baby talk. We honestly didn't even read. I mean, we read them baby books when they were little, but by the time my boys were, and maybe this is why the dynamics are so strange with my kids, is because the first 2 are 5 years apart and the second 2 are 4 years apart.
Right.
So that's why earlier on when you asked me about how many kids and all of that, I think I would have liked to have more, but it just didn't happen for me.
Right.
That it just naturally had these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have the 2 boys and they're 4 years apart, well, you're not going to be reading a little Goodnight Moon book to the baby, to the 2-year-old when you have a 7-year-old on the top bunk.
Right.
So, by the time he was little, he was probably only 1.5, I'd lay on the bottom bunk with him, or maybe 2. I'd lay on the bottom bunk with him. His brother would be on the top bunk, and I'd have a flashlight because I was trying to get them to
go to sleep,
chill out, right? And I'd have a little flashlight that I would read the book with. And I was reading him like My Side of the Mountain and following along with my finger. And so, did all of that matter that we were reading advanced books?
Right.
I wasn't reading little kid books to him, but the way that I figured out that he could read, which this was the funniest, was one night I was watching TV and on the bottom of the screen it would say, I think it actually said coming up next, Modern Family, some sitcom or whatever. And he was sitting on the floor in the same room as me playing with trucks or whatever. And he read the sentence. And I was kind of shocked and I paused it because it was like DVR or whatever. And I said, what did you say? And he like pointed at the TV and I was like, hang on a second. I was like, can you read? And so he's 3. He's been talking full sentences for well over a year. So I'm like, can you read?
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah. So I grabbed something next to me and I was like, what does this say? And for days, because we didn't teach him necessarily. We weren't like sounding out the vowels and doing phonics or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then the kids, like his brother and sister too, were just like, what the heck? They were like showing him the cereal box the next morning. They're like, what does this say? What does that say? And he was reading just about everything, like nothing like, he was reading anything that was like 5, 6 letters or under.
Yeah.
Because then they started giving him like really big words and he couldn't read those.
Yeah.
But even now to this day.
Psychiatry probably gave him a little trouble.
He's 15.
Yeah.
And even now, sometimes he shakes his head at me because I feel like I have a decent vocabulary, but his vocabulary is off the hook.
Yep.
Like he knows, he's a word person though. I come to find out, like he likes words. He likes to come up with find out unique words and what the meaning is and then use them in sentences. Mm-hmm. But the handwriting was on the wall or the handwriting was on the TV and he was reading it and then the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
But kind of cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Much easier than working for every sound and every.
So, but just go back a tiny bit. The first, and that's why I was shocked because with the first one, we had to struggle to learn how to read. Once she got it. And I mean, girl can read no problem. Mm-hmm. The second one, I didn't teach him to read either because his sister was a taskmaster and she would force her brothers, and you already heard the age differences here. Yeah. She would sit those boys down at desks and we had like a chalkboard in their bedroom. Like we chalkboarded the wall.
Oh yeah.
And that's just a tip for anyone out there that they can't get their kids to quit writing on the wall. Just paint the chalkboard and give them chalk and let them do it. Yeah, and just be like, do it all here,
Yep. This wall is free reign. Yeah,
she would sit down and make them play school and teach them letters and numbers and whatever. So the second one, he could read before he went to kindergarten as well. And I didn't technically teach him, although I read to him. Right. So I'm pretty sure his sister might have taught him.
Right.
She was 10. He was 5. So I think she taught him how to read. And we don't know who taught Quinn how to read.
Right.
He's just a genius. We call, his nickname is Professor Q.
That's awesome. I love it.
That was given to him by one of his uncles, actually.
Yeah, that's cute. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Sounds very professional and scholarly. Okay. Next question. Did you use cloth diapers or make your own baby food?
I mean, no. Well, I didn't make my own baby food, but I did have one of those food grinders. And I think we just called it a ricer or something. I got it from Whole Foods. It was a super simple one. And if we ever had vegetables, basically vegetables is mostly what I used it for. And even rice when they're really little. So like vegetables and rice was the thing I would like push through this thing. It would make it all small, throw it in a bowl and feed that to the kid while we were eating dinner. But I only did that at home. Like I had baby food in jars still to throw in the diaper bag for on the go. But my kids didn't really do a lot of baby food. They kind of went from bottles to French fries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. Yep, I know that.
There was a very, very short period of time there where they were eating smashed up food.
Yep. All right. Without using names, did any of your kids wet the bed? And if so, until how old?
Well, see, this is tricky because without using names, if I say all of them,
yeah, right.
This was definitely something that we dealt with all of them.
Yeah.
And so late that they were checked out by doctors to make sure there wasn't major problems.
Yeah, physical,
there was
yep.
everything. We tried everything under the sun, restricting fluids to waking up with sleep alarms to, I mean, you name it. And when it really came down to it, my word to, I won't even say how old any of them were because to just protect them from that.
Yes.
Because all of them did, and some much later than others.
Right. You're protecting all of them. Yep.
I want to protect all of them.
Good for you, Mom.
From that information. But I will say, my sister-in-law told me at one point, I was very frustrated because if for anyone that's listening, if you're dealing with this for like a long period of time, it's so incredibly frustrating. Although they get old enough to be able to strip their own beds and haul it down and do the wash. And it's still just like your wash is going all the time. She said, by the time they get married, they're not going to be doing this anymore.
Yep.
Or by the time they graduate from high school, they won't be doing this anymore.
Yep.
And which part of me wanted to be like, shut your mouth. Like that is not encouraging.
Yeah.
But the reality is what she was trying to say is every single kid grows out of it.
Yeah.
Some at 5, some at 10, some at 15, some at, you know what I mean? But like every kid grows out of it. So just hang in there and try to be kind.
Yeah.
Because they also don't want to be doing this.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
It's very embarrassing for them.
Yes.
And very hard on their psyche and their emotions. And
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. So that was one of my crosses I had to bear for many years.
Okay. Did your kids sleep in your bed? And if so, until what age?
So,
can I guess the answer to this one?
Yeah, I guess.
A big fat resounding absolutely not.
Well, listen, the first one did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
do tell.
Because she was horrid of a baby. Like, or maybe I was a horrid mother. I don't know. It's probably both.
Yeah. Well, you know
but
what? I think babies pick up on mom's vibes. And like a relaxed mom seems like a more relaxed baby, and a stressed out mom is a stressed out baby. I don't know. Yeah. You know, that's not 100% anything, but
it's like what came first. You know, what came first?
Exactly.
You know, the chicken or the egg. It's like, was I so stressed out because she was just so hard to deal with, or was she so hard to deal with because I was so stressed out? And like, what came first? I don't know. I really don't know.
Yep.
All I know is I did whatever. I wasn't thinking logically. I was doing whatever I could do in the moment to survive. Just put it that way. I did not sleep through the night. I am not even exaggerating here. I did not sleep one night through the night without being uninterrupted for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so whether I put her in another room or I had her in my bed or whatever, like I was just doing whatever worked. So what I learned was she didn't want to get out of my bed. And my husband and I had many fights in the middle of the night when she turned us into a human H. And anyone that has a kid sleeping in the middle of them knows what I'm talking about. Head on one parent, feet on the other. And the parent that had the feet on them was going to... Yeah, and what we'd do is we'd turn the kid straight,
each other...
And then she would just turn the other direction. And we had there were not so many, but I do remember we were in Utah. So she was probably 2 or something. And we were getting to the end of it. Like, this has got to stop. And flicking the light on at 1 a.m. and just having a full on fight about it, you know? And it's just like, this has to stop. It's like, well, who's going to make it stop? Like, you make it stop. I don't know how to make it stop. Like, you think I want to live my life like this? Yeah. So it was kind of like neither of us knew what to do to solve this issue because she would not. Like, you put her in her own, she would cry until she threw up. Then you'd have to go change.
And then you have to clean up the mess.
The throw up.
Yeah.
Yes. It was so bad. So anyway, long story short, she finally was out of my room at the age of 5.
And then you had a new baby?
And I never let the baby sleep in my bed. Like, I was like, I learned my lesson. I'm never doing that again. So never did they sleep in my bed. Even if they woke up with a nightmare, woke up sick, woke up whatever, and wanted to climb into my bed, absolutely not. I would get up and climb into their bed.
Yeah.
I would sleep with them, but they were never coming into my bed.
Yep.
And it wasn't really much of an issue because it never happened. They never expected it to happen. So I feel like it's an all or nothing thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's wise to go into their bed. That's a good solution. All right. Do any of your kids have a disability?
So many. No, just kidding. No.
Disability.
My daughter's a type 1 diabetic, which I think is a little bit of a disability when you know what that entails, but not, nothing that she can't handle.
Yep. Do any of your kids have an allergy to anything?
I suspect that my second one does, but I've never had him tested. And I think he's naturally gravitated away from things. And I think it's lactose because he doesn't want cheese on things, doesn't drink milk, like he just naturally stays away from those things. And I don't ever force a kid to eat anything that they don't want to eat.
Right.
So I think naturally we kind of know what makes us feel bad and we try to stay away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
If we listen to our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. If it makes me feel yucky, it's not worth it.
Yeah. But no like anaphylactic, carrying an EpiPen or anything like that. No.
Right. Okay. Have you ever been the Tooth Fairy or Elf on a Shelf or Santa or the Easter Bunny or, St. Patrick, like any kind of...
No, but I think if I had married someone different, I would have totally been sold out to the whole idea of it all, of all the pretend of it.
Yeah.
My husband stood on if you tell them the Easter Bunny is real and you tell them Santa is real and you tell them Jesus is real and then they start finding out that you're lying to them, like, are they going to believe the third, right?
Yeah. That's very wise.
And I said, I can respect that.
Yeah.
I'm still having a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
We're still
celebrating. Yes.
And we're still doing the one, this is what we did when I was a kid, one present on like Christmas Eve and the rest on Christmas morning. There still is this excitement built up and whatever when they're little.
Yep.
Now we sit around and have coffee and wonder like, how long should we let them sleep before we wake them up? Like I'm usually waking them up now, like get up, I want to do presents.
Yeah. Right.
But no.
Shoes on the other foot.
I didn't pretend. I find it fun even to follow some of my friends that do Elf on the Shelf and things like that during the holidays. They get so creative with it. I think it looks like great fun. And I would probably, like I said, had I married someone different, I might have participated in those kind of things. My parents did. They, ringing the bells of the reindeer and the whole.
Oh yeah. The cookie has a bite out of it.
I mean, they were good.
Crumbs.
Yeah, and I remember the magical feeling of it all, and I remember how much I loved it. I do remember when my bubble burst and I realized Mom and Dad were actually the ones behind all of this. I was probably about 8 or 9. And yeah, I was a little bit shocked, but I don't remember being devastated or anything like that. And I believe in Jesus, so, I don't know what to say. I don't know that the theory is hard and fast, But I can respect both ways, It's not that big of a deal to me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Not a hill to die on.
Not a hill to die on. Definitely not.
Yep.
But I could care less if other people do it. I think it's great fun. And I think that's all it is. It's just, I just like to have fun and all that stuff's just fun stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tooth Fairy. I don't think we ever really did the Tooth Fairy. I actually need to ask my kids if I did when I was younger. Or when they were younger, because I have big gaps in my memory.
Isn't that weird? I do too. I have to think back and I'm like, what? I don't know.
Like, I kind of have these vague memories. I might have a time or two done Tooth Fairy, but then finally just said, there's no Tooth Fairy. I'm the Tooth Fairy and I'm done giving you money. I don't know. Yeah. That sounds like something I do.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to have to check with them.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Have any of your kids had lice?
Never.
By
the grace of God.
Yes, absolutely.
Although my boys, I have pretty much buzzed them most of their lives.
Yep.
So that cut down on my chances anyway.
Yep. Mine did that too.
And when my kid was younger, she lived in the South and they weren't sharing winter hats. I think it happens more in cold climates.
Yeah.
Because of the sharing of hats and stuff like that. Scarves. And I think it can live in all that stuff a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we had breakouts all the time when I was growing up, I feel like. I never even had it. My sister did, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had it either, but we heard about it. And
all the time. Yeah. Do you remember the nurse actually coming in with a magnifying glass and checking our heads?
Like I remember, we got called to their office or whatever, some little room in the library or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd come get like 3 or 4 kids at a time and
you just go out in the hall and nobody said like, yep, I found one on you. And nope, I didn't find one. They tried to protect the.
Yeah. Do you also remember them, checking us for scoliosis.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Vision tests and hearing tests.
The vision test, hearing test, scoliosis, lice, we practically had medical care at school.
I was just going to say, did we get immunizations? I don't remember.
Not at school. No, that was at the doctor's. Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't that many back then though.
No, I know, right? It was a short list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Did you use time out? And if so, do you think it worked?
I tried to use that. I don't think it worked. I don't know. They wouldn't stay in timeout,
Okay.
I was like, get in timeout. And they were like, no.
Okay, leading on to the next question then. What form of discipline worked best for your family?
Nothing worked. I don't know. It just, I feel like so much of it, I was muddling through and figuring out as I went and just trying to just do my best. I don't feel like I went into it with a game plan. I didn't have any training. I don't know why they let me take kids home from the hospital without any certification, because I feel like they certified me for everything else in my life, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't be a lifeguard without serious amount of training.
Right.
But you can just take a kid home.
I know.
Nothing.
Yeah, I know. And 18 years old. Or, younger than that. I happen to be 18, but if I had been 16, they would have just let me walk out of the hospital. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my kids are good people and I don't feel like my kids are brats, they're not, but it's just been, I think the only thing I can say is, yeah, we would send them to their room, as they got older, we did if they were throwing a total tantrum, especially in public, there would be a little hair pull, but typically my go-to was remove the kid from the situation.
Yeah.
So if the kid was throwing a fit in the grocery store and I talked to the kid and they would not stop, I would I don't care if I had groceries in my car, I'd bring them to the front and I'd say, I'm so sorry, but I have to leave.
Yep.
And there's these groceries in the car. I'm sorry. And I'd take my kid and I'd leave.
Yep.
And I think one of the things I would say is don't even try to take your kid to the grocery store or something like that if it's nap time or you have, you think, oh, I'm going to do this and then we'll go eat lunch. No, feed the kid first, make sure the kid's rested and then take them out in public. I think I set my kids up for failure a lot of the times by thinking I could force them into my schedule.
Right.
And I wanted to do that right now because it was most convenient for me, but I was trying to do it so then I could get home and put them for a nap. And I was just pushing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the best form of discipline I had, don't put myself in stupid situations.
Yeah.
Keep them rested and just really try to be patient and remember they're people.
Mm-hmm.
They're not soldiers. They're not adults. They're children and they're people.
Yeah.
And to try to treat them with respect and kindness. And that's what I tried to do. And I don't know that I ever figured out any hard and fast discipline that really worked. It's for each one. It was a little bit for one, you could, take away privileges for seeing friends because she's very social. That would really get her going. That would make her wake up and take notice of what her behavior problem was. One of them I could, take away screen privileges and that would work with them. And then the middle one, nothing worked. You couldn't bribe, threaten, or spank the problem out of that kid. Granted, he didn't really give us problems either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Outwardly. I don't know. I won't get into all that. But yeah, I never figured out anything that really worked great. Nothing ever worked consistently well for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it probably is a me problem once again. I probably should have been in therapy.
Right.
Honestly,
shouldn't we all have, right?
Oh, yeah.
I will say one thing that I did with my kids that I'm going to interject on your question here is I got quieter rather than louder. Screaming to me is when I got super quiet and I knelt down by my kids to speak in their ear and I would take that little tiny hair at the back, right behind your ear, just enough that it just raised their neck a tiny bit, made them stand up straight and whispered in their ear. They were like, okay, this means business.
Yeah, no, I think
Mom means business. Yeah.
Yeah, getting down on their level, like
Yes,
same thing.
totally.
I'm not a screamer.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't want to be live in an environment where people are yelling
Or threaten. If you do that again, I'm gonna. If you do that again, I'm gonna. Nope.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Because you know what? The kid learns you're a liar. Because you say, if you do that again, I'm gonna put you in timeout, and then you don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Mom, just lied.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that again, I'm gonna, take away this privilege, and you don't. Mom, just lied again. Well, you're not trustworthy then.
Mm-hmm.
They have to, they like know what decibel level actually means you mean it. And they'll push you to that every time.
I'm thinking back now, like the thing that worked the best and most consistently for me is I would ask them, am I going to need to talk to your dad when he gets home?
Yeah.
No. Right.
Yeah.
And it was weird because like, he's the nice one.
It wasn't that
I'm the harsh, mean one, right?
Yes, right.
But God gives a man, a father, an authority, just like a gift of authority over children that women don't have. But he gives us like a gift of nurturing and different things that complement that. But there's just this authority, and there was plenty of times that I did. I was just like, sometimes I would just say like, I'm going to be talking to your dad about this when he gets home, and I'd walk away from the situation. The kid could act however they want. I'm like, I don't do whatever you're going to do. I'm going to talk to your dad about it when he gets home, and he can deal with it, because I wasn't going to be disciplining in anger anyway. And I had some kids that gave me some run for my money. I'm going to tell you that, because guess what? They're like me. And I also did that to my parents. And I just thought, wow, paybacks are a you-know-what.
I was just going to say, did your mom say, I hope you have a daughter just like you, or a child just like you?
Yeah.
And you did.
And you know what I say to my kids?
More than one?
You know what I say to my one kid that has a kid? I say, I hope you have kids that are way better than you.
Yeah.
Because you know what? They're going to be my grandkids. I don't want to wish that she has kids worse than her. I already know how hard she was to deal with, right? Like, I don't want that. I don't want that for her, and I don't want that for me.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's that.
All right. Homeschool, private school, public school, all the schools. What'd you do and why?
Public, because that's what I knew. That's what I did. That's how I was raised. Started homeschooling because one kid, because of various problems. Then the other one got jealous and begged me to homeschool, so I let her. And the baby was too young, so he wasn't in school, but, he was already teaching himself to read, so it didn't matter.
He was 3 and he knew how to read. Yep.
He basically was the teacher. So, yeah, and then we moved, and so after we moved to New Hampshire, my daughter, who was social, begged to go back to school because we had moved to an area where, how are you going to make friends, right? Yeah. Like, so she was just like, I want to go back to school, make friends, and so she did. So she went back to public, and then that was in like 7th or 8th grade or something like that. And by the time she hit 11, she was begging to finish off her year at home, like finish off 11th and 12th at home, because she's like, it's just horrid. Like the way just things were. And her diabetes diagnosis didn't help. Like, she was still trying to sort it all out and all of that. So she went back and forth a lot. The other ones, no, not so much. They all did some. I had 1 year of my entire parenting life where all 3 of them were in public school. 1 year. Other than that, there was always somebody home with me.
Right.
So, and that 1 year that they were all in, I had 1 in the elementary school, 1 in the middle school, and 1 in the high school. And my day was just consumed by getting calls from different schools and picking up and dropping off and events and things. And I was just like, what a nightmare this is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. What's been your favorite family trip?
Favorite family trip. So one of the ones that we talk about the most, I would say, and it's not really, it's a family trip, but it's not a conventional family trip that you would think about. One time, and I don't remember who thought of it, one of the sister-in-laws said we should all rent a house on the beach and spend time and whatever. And it worked out, and there was quite a few, I don't even know how many, but it was all of the girls, all of the women, or most of us, and all the kids. And we rented a house right on the beach in Virginia Beach. and spent a week there, mostly taking turns making meals, but we had old enough kids with us as well that could babysit the younger kids. So we did scoot out and go out to eat once or twice. And that was pretty magical. The kids still talk about it, and it was quite a long time ago. And they're like, when are we going to do that again? When are we going to do that again? And we think, oh yeah, we should do that. And then we start looking up prices on beach houses, and we're just like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Great memories, hey?
Yeah, really good memories.
Yep. Next question. Can you think of anything about parenthood that surprised you?
How tired I'd be all the time. It was like, how much, like, sleeping like a baby. Why do they use that phrase? Sleeping like a baby means, like, for my babies, it means like waking up every hour, like on the hour. Just what? Like,
somebody said, I want to sleep like a husband.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So that the level of exhaustion and the physical demand of it was shocking to me. It almost broke me. I realized why they use sleep deprivation as a torture technique in other countries.
Or POW camps and places.
Yeah. I mean, it'll make you go mental.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but not least question. Do you have a word of advice for new moms?
Gosh, may the odds be forever in your favor. I don't know. Like, it's not for the weak. Bless you if you do have just like easy kids and you're just a chill mom and can just roll with things and whatever. But if you're not, like, just, that's not who you are. It's fine. Like, be who you are and reach out for help, read books. That's what I did. I read a lot of books. But there is don't compare yourself. How about that? That's going to be my advice. Do not compare yourself if someone else is out there just crushing it with their own business and their kids are always in matching outfits and their hair looks so cute and whatever. Like, just be happy for them, but don't ever think you need to live up to that.
Yeah.
You know, if they're in leggings with holes in the knees and their hair is in a rat's nest, but your kids are happy and they're good and you're good. Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. The kids don't care. The kids honestly don't care. Yeah. They just they want you to spend time with them. They want you to love them. They want you to just be happy. They want you to be happy. So do what makes you happy so the kids can be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's good.
But don't compare whatever you do.
Yeah. What did you say before? Comparison is the thief of joy?
I say comparison is the killer of all joy.
Yeah, killer of joy, thief of joy. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. No, it just, in so many ways, if I ever find myself doing that, like, I stop right away. Because what it really comes down to is, like, if you're comparing, that means there's sometimes a little bit of jealousy there, maybe. You know, start conditioning your heart and asking the Lord to help you be happy for them.
Yeah.
Bless them. Like, be so happy for them, because we don't actually know what really is going on or what things are really like, you know, but just be happy for them that they're able to pull that off and be happy for yourself for what you have. It's the whole art of contentment.
Yep.
Right.
Totally get it. Yep.
Yeah. You know, be content where you're at. Like you said, they do grow up so fast, but I will never say that to moms. There was actually, I'm going to tell one last story about that. I was in a bathroom recently. It was after church. You know how anyone that has little kids, toddlers, babies, after church, you go out to eat. The kids are already pretty tired. They've already been in church for a couple hours, and now you're waiting for food at a restaurant, and it's nap time. So anyway, this girl was in the bathroom with a toddler and a baby, and she was trying to change the baby's diaper, and the toddler was acting up a little bit. I don't know if he had to be changed or what, and he's kind of standing in the way of where I needed to go into the stall, and we got him moved out of the way, and I went into the stall, and she was trying to deal with his meltdown while she was trying to change the baby's diaper. And this other lady comes in and tells this girl, "Oh, just enjoy them while they're little. They grow up so quick." And I'm thinking, lady, there's a time and a place. Like, she's having a moment, you know? And then she goes, I'm sitting on the pot in one of the stalls, right? And she goes, you're just gonna miss it. You're going to miss all of this someday. And I pipe up. I don't miss it. I don't. And you know what?
Not that part, especially.
And I'm not kidding. Like, I can love my kids and have loved raising my kids and also say I don't miss them being little.
Right.
I don't.
'Cause it's a lot of work.
You know, like it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It's over and I
It
moved
was
on.
hard.
You know, I
Mhm.
don't want to go back.
Yeah.
It was so hard. And I think when people say, oh, you're going to miss this and, or like enjoy this moment, it almost sets you up for if you're not enjoying that moment.
Yeah.
Now you feel guilty because I should be enjoying every moment. And it's just like some moments are not meant to enjoy. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Some moments are meant to endure and whisper under your breath.
Yeah.
They do grow up. They do grow up. They do grow up. Right. Yeah. And just hold yourself together and survive that moment because it's horrible sometimes.
Yeah.
Kids are unreasonable.
Yeah.
And we're tired.
Mm-hmm.
And the combination just causes this like, yeah. So anyway, be careful. All I asked her, I said, is there any way I can help? Is there anything I can do to help? She said, no, I'm all set. I said, all right. And I washed my hands and I left. You know, and I think definitely offer that. I always offer. Do you want me to hold your kid? Do you need me to do anything? Like, you know, because sometimes you're just like, I just need 4 sets of hands.
Yeah.
To do this thing. And you have too many kids at that time. So, I mean, I think by all means offer help, but those platitudes, be careful. Be careful about time and place with those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering those 20 questions, my friend.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And next we have 20 questions about raising kids with Boo.
Oh, okay. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. How old were you when you had your first child?
You're making me do math, aren't you?
Yep. This early in the morning.
23.
Then we're going to fact check you to make sure. Just,
You might need to. I'd be like,
this is fake news. Did you have an idea of how many children you wanted before you had any? Like you had no kids. Did you have a number in your head?
I did. I wanted 5. 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many do you have?
Well, Brian wanted 12.
Oh, sheesh.
So we compromised and we have 7. We actually have 7 here and 1 in heaven.
Okay. Did you ever have to have a C-section?
No, that was one of my biggest fears is having to be cut open. Like one of my biggest fears.
So you've never had to. Praise God.
I even had to have a set of twins in there.
What?
Yep. I had my first and then 2.5 years later, I had my set of twins and baby A came out head down and he was great. And baby B said nope. And she flipped her feet down and they had to pull her out breech.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a total God plan thing though. I won't go far into it, but the doctor that was there was a fill-in for my normal doctor and he used to only deliver twins. He'd do head down first, deliver that baby and then reach in and pull the other one out by its feet. That's just how he used to deliver. So he happened to be there that night.
Oh.
The night I went into labor.
Unbelievable.
And it worked out. My doctor was on vacation in Hawaii. It worked out great.
So he was a pro. That's perfect.
Yep.
Wow.
So this might be a little bit one way or the other, but do you think your kids look more like you or their father?
Half and half.
Pretty good mix.
Well, when I go to a grocery store, everybody's like, oh yeah, those are all yours.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that for Brian or not, but I definitely see my oldest son. He's definitely his father in his actions and I think his looks too. And then, quite a few of my girls, I'm like, I see his sisters, Brian's sisters in there. So I think it's about half and half.
Good mix. Yeah. Who chose your kids' names?
Well,
I'll mix these questions together so that you can kind of do these like side by side in a way. Like who chose the kids' names and do they have special meaning? Because these are usually kind of tied together. Like this one chose this because of this and this one because of that. So,
well, I won't go into all of them because there's 7 of them, so that could take a while. But my oldest daughter is Bri Lee. And we named her that because Brian was talking about his growing up and his dad used to yell at the door, Brian Lee. And my ears heard Briley. And I'm like, oh, that'd be the cutest name. And so for the 9 months of pregnancy, I'm like, I want to use that name. And I had to beg him. And then I'm in labor and the nurse is like, so what's her name? And I'm like, well, what do you think, honey? And he's like, go ahead. And so I finally got to name her Briley. Canyon and Keisha, my twins, they were actually, I had 4 names picked out, 2 boys, 2 girls. And so we had Canyon. He was for sure. When I'm sending out all the messages to the family to let them know what the babies are named, I'm telling him one thing and Brian's telling him another. So I wanted Canyon and Maya Lisa. And those are the two names I wanted. And he's like, no, they're twins. They have to have the same start. So we had Canyon and Keisha, and Blaine and Maya Lisa were the two sets of names we had. And so I wanted Maya Lisa really bad because I just really wanted to use a name. That one has meaning because my grandma was going to use it before she passed away. She passed away when my mom was young. So she was planning to use it. And all through the years, all the grandchildren have tried to use it and nobody's been able to use it. Finally, I was going to use it. And I thought I was using it. And then he's like, well, that's not the name I sent to everybody. So Keisha, we ended up naming her Keisha, and she's actually named after my aunt too. So they kind of all a little bit have a meaning. And then let's see. Well, we had Blaine.
You finally
Blaine
did?
I did finally get a Blaine, but he's the one that went to heaven.
Okay.
He was born at 20 weeks. And so we named him, I named him Blaine. I don't know if I ever told Brian until months after he was already born. In my brain, he was Blaine Charles, but I never told anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell my husband anyways. So that was his name. So yes, I picked that name. And so then I had Maya Lisa finally. I finally got to use it. She was our rainbow baby, so it worked out perfect. I'm like, that is the best name for our rainbow baby. He had no problem with using it. He named the next one. He got to have first pick. Sort of.
Sort of? What do you mean sort of? Either he did or he didn't.
Because he picked the name. He said, we're going to name her Gloria. And I'm like, we can't just call her Glory. And he's like, yeah, we can. I'm like, no, Gloria. And we can call her.
Okay,
and the funny thing is, now I really wish we had just named her Glory because it's so cute. And that's what we call her anyways.
Yeah.
And then Lydia, I picked because I've always loved the name. So my baby Lydia. And then Lane, Brian actually named. He picked it finally. I was going through all the names and I'm like, isn't it too close to Blaine? But then in my brain, it was the perfect. We lost Blaine and we got a Lane. Like, not forgotten, but I didn't want to use the same name, obviously.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really cool that he suggested that. And he actually just said he liked the name. He's like, it had nothing to do with Blaine at all. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I thought it was, sentimental and cute.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is that all of them?
That's all of them.
That's great. I love that.
And then all their middle names are after somebody.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
In the family names.
Yeah, they're all family names.
Did any of your kids do anything particularly early or particularly late?
My oldest is the only one I can really think of. She was saying horsey plain as day on her first birthday. Like speaking with us and at 1 year old, she was having conversations with us.
Yeah.
And then my twins come along and I swear they didn't talk till they were 2. And I swear my baby hasn't talked until he was 4. I know he did earlier, but in my brain, it's like he's taken forever.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how early it was. So it was really shocking when the twins came along and took a long time. Like it was 2.5 years before they were saying clear sentences and she was talking clearly at a year.
Yeah.
But she was our little buddy. She hung out with me and Chris everywhere we went and we went.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you use cloth diapers or make your own baby food?
No.
No. Okay. Just no.
I still wouldn't. I still don't regret anything.
All right. Without using any names of the kids because they could get embarrassed, did any of your kids wet the bed?
I still have one that does.
And what was the oldest age that you had to endure that?
I'll get back to you on that. I'm still dealing with it.
Okay.
I have actually, we kind of know what the issue is and it doesn't happen often anymore, but my 2 of them actually at the moment.
So you have 2 kids that
are still having lots of accidents.
Okay.
I think it's a vitamin deficiency myself though. So didn't you ask how old?
Yeah. Till what age?
Yeah. So you don't know. To be determined.
To be determined. Yes.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Have you heard about I have to just put this in there. Have you heard about the link between gluten intolerance and bladder issues?
Yeah.
You have. You've read about it. All right.
I'm kind of interested. We're still looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
It clears up for a while, so I forget to finish researching and then, and then we have lots of accidents again.
So I went through a lot of that with all of my kids and I didn't hear anything about the gluten thing. Like I'm already way past it. My baby's 15 and I'm hearing about this now and I'm thinking, why didn't no one tell me about this?
Yeah. I need to test it out on her, but I need to try it.
Someone I know, actually the last person we just interviewed, they were talking about it. All right. Do any of your kids have a disability?
With twin daughter had eczema. I don't know if I'd call it a disability, but it definitely changed our lives big time. She had severe eczema over 95% of her body when she was 2, 3, 4, up until she was in about 4th grade.
Do they consider that an allergy or a disease?
Well, hers is an autoimmune disease, but
Okay.
it was caused by allergy. She was highly allergic to dust mites. So my
Okay.
suggestion to anybody that has eczema, please go in and get pricked and find out what's causing it. Find
Yeah.
out, because we treated it for years with all the steroids and tried everything. And cutting down on dust was the biggest help.
Okay. Yeah, which can mean like a difference in like getting different sorts of pillows and blankets and things like this are super helpful.
Yep. Leather couches, not vacuuming when they're around because you don't want to stir up the dust. There's so many things that if you find out what the cause is, and they can tell you things that'll help.
Yeah.
Find out the cause of it. Don't just treat the symptoms.
Yeah, that's really good. So
no actual disabilities, but
okay, because I was going to ask if anyone has any allergies to anything. Like, do you have any allergy issues? So that would be actually considered an allergy issue.
Yep. Then I think she's 14 now and she's pretty much grown out of it. She gets it a little bit here and there, but she knows how to treat it though. She's fine.
Yeah. That's a blessing that she has because it was pretty rough.
It was
for her.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Did you or your husband ever pretend to be the Tooth Fairy, Elf on a Shelf, Santa, or Easter Bunny, or anything of the like?
Not really.
No?
A couple times, like we do the tooth fairy thing where we put a cup out on the counter
Yeah.
and you put the tooth in the cup and it grows money. Or my kids say, the tooth fairy comes and puts money in the cup. That's how they think of it.
Yeah.
And so if the tooth is still in the cup, the money's still coming. There's still more money coming. So she might come back multiple times and drop more change in the cup. This is how we did it growing up. So, and we always knew who it was.
That sounds like a really great way to do it because then it's like, it gives you like flexibility for like, if you forget.
Yeah.
to put
You
the
want to
money-
hear how bad we're not good farmers because one of the cups in the kitchen has 4 teeth in it at the moment.
Are they all
That
from the same
fairy is
kid?
busy.
All the same child. She actually literally just lost a bunch at the same time. But yeah, there's 4 teeth in it.
Oh, that's
This tooth
hilarious.
fairy's really slacking. It's
That
winter
tooth
where she
fairy is
is.
busy. That tooth fairy is very busy.
And then one time when we were at the last house, one of the kids, or we were filling the wood stove in the kitchen. There was ashes that had fallen on the floor. And it was Christmas Eve. So Brian actually, who does not like that kind of stuff anyways, he's not a fan of all the commercial side of the holidays. He decided, he's like, let's go mess with the ashes and stuff like that. And we didn't actually fill we shut the wood stove off, but there were ashes on the floor. I think he had been cleaning it.
Oh.
But we didn't have the wood stove lit. So we took the wood stove, opened the door a little bit. There was ashes on the floor. So he left the ashes there instead of the usual cleanup. And he took the little Santa hat that I had hanging by the Christmas cards, and hung it partially outside of the wood stove, locked it in the door. That was the extent of us playing Santa.
Father.
But other than that, no, we have never really done anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did any of your kids sleep in your bed?
Nope. Well, when they
Never.
were newborns, I co-slept when they were newborns, when I was nursing.
Okay.
While I was nursing, they were with me, but then after that, they were in a bassinet, and then they moved on to their bedroom. And to this day, I don't remember the last time I had a kid sleep in my room.
Yeah. I think that's the way
My
to do
bed.
it. Yeah.
My bed.
Yeah. You get in your bed, I'll get in my bed. Everyone
I don't
will
even want to
sleep
share
better.
with Brian sometimes. I'm like, go back to your side of the bed.
I told my husband not too long ago, I can understand why some old people have separate bedrooms when the kids move out. And he just looked at
And they're all just empty anyways.
Yeah. It's like,
Here we are
sleeping.
torturing each other all night long, and we have empty bedrooms all over this house.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
I love him, and I love sleeping next to him.
Yeah.
But, yep. He's a bed hog. I have
Oh.
buttons down the middle of my bed. Like, I
Yeah.
know where the headboard is, the buttons, that's the middle. That's
Get
his
on your
spot,
side.
apparently. He says that is his side.
Have any of your kids ever had lice?
Yes, we had to go through our house one time.
But tell me how great that was.
Well, we have girls with very, very, very thick hair and very curly hair. And so one of them was a toddler and beautiful brown curly, like thick head of curly brown hair on less than a 1-year-old. And so we have to treat this and try to clean it. Now, my bigger girls, they have very, very thick curly hair, well, wavy hair, very, very thick hair. So we sent ours. Brian was next to me combing and combing and combing and combing. But the baby was the one I was worried about. And I mean, I did shampoo her head. Sorry, don't tell. I don't know who you tell, but don't tell those people.
Yeah.
I shampooed her head and we picked her hair too. I'm like, I don't know what else to do, but it said, I think 4 and up or something like that on the bottle. Like you weren't supposed to use it for anything younger. And I'm like, how do you not clean her hair? I'm not shaving her head. Those beautiful brown curls, I refuse to.
Yeah.
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 So that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. And guess what I found out during that whole process? I went to somewhere and they were like, do you know people mostly over-treat for lice? Like vacuum your bedrooms, put some bay leaves in your pillows, put all the laundry away, bag up the stuffed animals, put them away for 6 months. You don't have a mess for 6 months. That's the biggest plus about that.
Yeah, right.
But they're like, bag up all the soft stuff, vacuum. And they said, Nick, just keep treating their hair, like combing their hair out. And it's pretty easy. People flip out though. And I did flip out the first time. I was so stressed.
Wait, the first time? How many times has it happened?
We got it 2 times.
Okay.
And the second time it was like a day and a half of cleaning up and I never found any after that. But the first time was more extreme. Like we found bugs, like actual larger bugs in there.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. Did you use time out as discipline?
For some of them.
Do you think it worked?
For some of them. For the timeout, we did nose and toes to the wall. So they had to stand with their toes touching the wall and their nose. Yep. And so that their hands, they couldn't put their hands in front of them at all. Mm-hmm. And so we called it nose and toes. And it only worked for 2 of them. The other ones were like, hey, this is fun. This is like a challenge. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. So it didn't work for all of them.
What form of discipline did work best for your family?
I think actually the timeouts did.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that needed the timeouts, the ones that needed that alone time, needed the alone time.
Yeah.
There was one that I could give a little tweak of the hair, and that was all they needed to smarten up for a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had one kid that, I hate saying that I did this, but like I paddled my kids with a spoon a little bit when they were like toddlers.
I had one that just did not care.
There was one kid that, they'd get literally like 2, like swat, like that's it. And like not even that hard, honestly. And they'd straighten up for 6 months. I was like, I feel like I should just put it on the calendar to just give him 2 swats every 6 months. And like that he'd just be good,
Yeah. Yeah.
Schedule it. But anyway. All right. Homeschool, private school, or public school, and why?
We did the public school.
Yeah.
Now we homeschool.
Yeah.
And I will stick with homeschooling.
Why?
Even my kids, they have even so many reasons. It started out because of COVID with the whole mask thing. Sorry, the C word.
Yeah.
Them having to wear masks. My son he had a little milk allergy. And so when he had the milk allergy, it would actually it was almost asthmatic where he'd just cough a lot. He sounded sick, but he wasn't. It was just from drinking too much milk. Mm-hmm. And so having him put a mask on, I said, nope, that ain't happening. You are not putting a mask on him. And so I think they finished out the year. No, they did the home part, like where we had to do it at home. And I never sent him back after that because I heard they were going to have to go to masks and stuff like that. So I said, no, they're not going back to school. And that's when we started homeschooling and I've loved it. I miss the alone time during the day, not the alone time, but the quiet time where it's just toddlers in the house. I miss that where you can clean the house and it stays clean. That's the only downfall, literally the only downfall to homeschooling.
Yeah.
Other than that, I 100%. And my kids are like, Mom, you should have heard the stuff we heard in school. Like they even talk about it now. And I found out that my oldest was bullied and that broke my heart because she never told me. She was like, why would I wasn't going to tell you. I just keep to myself. I just learned to ignore them and stay to myself. And I'm like, but that's just my word. Like, how did I not know this? So yeah, my kids can just stay home.
Yeah. I don't think we know the half of it when they're gone all day like that. All right. What has been your favorite family trip? Do you have one family trip that you're like, that was the best?
The worst one, actually. The best one was the worst one. We still all laugh.
Yeah.
So a year ago we went, or no, it was years ago. Baby was a baby. So 4 years ago. Oh,
Yeah.
see, time flies.
Yeah.
4 years ago we went to the beach and it was a wild hair. Brian's like, hey, let's go camping. And I'm like, okay. It was August in South Carolina in a tent. So we get this tent and we go to this beach. And the beach, you know, it'll be fine because there's wind and there's breeze. Well, this campground that we had never been to, we went to, and their campsites were like across the grove of trees. Like you had to go through the trees and down the boardwalk to get to the actual beach. So you were blocked inland a little bit. Humid. It was so humid. It was literally, we looked at our phones. It was 97 degrees with 100% humidity. And so it felt like 115, 120. I don't know. In my brain, it was 120. So we're laying in this tent and we're all just dripping in sweat, completely drenched in sweat. And we have the canvas cover thing off so that we have a breeze going through there, hoping, like, just praying for that breeze, and then you feel that breeze on your sweat and it'd be like air conditioning. I mean, there's 9 of us in this tent. We got all the windows open and it starts raining. We're all in our, like, laying down in our blankets and it starts raining through the tent because we don't have the cover on it. So we get out and we take our grand old time putting that canvas cover back on. Like, grand old time, we'll take the wet water. We ended up sleeping in puddles that night. It was so gross and hot. The rain felt amazing. The puddles were probably cooling, but it was the most miserable, hilarious trip.
Gross.
We were 2:00 in the morning where the whole family is laughing their heads off because we're laying in puddles. And we're like squishing over to this corner and that corner, and you take this little hump in the middle because it's out of the puddles. It was so gross.
Don't let the baby sleep over there. It's too deep.
We had him in a packing place, so he was up on dry land. We were all tempted to sleep with him.
So it was like, it's literally like, the trip was just awful.
It was so bad.
But talking about it after the fact and laughing about how horrible it was is what is so fun about it.
We asked she was 4-year-old at the time. We asked her, so what was your favorite part? She's like, going home. I was like, same, I get it. Oh, it was so funny. Every one of us remember that trip and talk about it. It was quite hilarious. And now we have a camper and we go to the beach and we sit in the air conditioning. In the dry. Yes.
Okay. Can you think of anything about parenthood that surprised you? You're shocked, like you just never.
I don't know everything. My kids know more than me. I'm just kidding. How much I'd actually enjoy the older ages. Like, I've always loved babies. I've always loved toddlers. I've always loved little kids. But when your kids become teenagers, they're so fun. Don't tell them I said that.
Yeah.
Even their attitudes. I like their attitudes. I'm like, they're not disrespectful, but when they start like having attitude towards me, I think it's hilarious and I give them a hard time for it usually, but I love that age.
Well, you remember that. It's not that long ago that you were like, I know.
Lois, it was a long time ago now.
Well,
but no, I wasn't one like that.
Fast. Oh, okay.
I was never like a talk back. Never, no.
Okay.
I was.
No, I know what you mean though, because it's like, my youngest, he doesn't talk back or anything. He's a great kid, but he's started to, be a little bit of a teenager now where he's gone with his friends and it's like, who is there? People, like, what'd you guys do? Just stuff, like where it was like a year ago, you'd ask him the same questions and he'd just tell you all the details about all the people and all the things. And now it's all like, and he's not getting into trouble or anything,
Yeah.
Everybody warned me that happens. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad. I'm not ready for him to not like me as much.
I could milk it out of him, but.
But you have to milk it. It's not as readily. He doesn't just come home and go, Mom!
And I just think it's so cute and funny though, because I remember going through that. It's just part of the transition of, cutting those apron strings a little bit.
Let me have my secret type of thing.
Yeah, like,
well, and just, it's not cool to tell your mom everything. I mean,
right.
I want to be cool.
But your mom is so cool.
I am, for sure.
Right? Same.
They have no idea how cool of a mom they have. I keep telling them, but they just don't see it.
They don't believe you.
I mean, other people think I'm cool. I don't know why they don't. Anyway, all right.
Sidetracked.
last but not least, do you have any word of advice for a new mom? Like maybe someone's pregnant, getting ready to have their first kid, or maybe they have their first kid, but it's a toddler. Any words of wisdom or advice?
The biggest one is enjoy them in the moment. Like when you wake up in the middle of the night, just look at them and enjoy them. And when you're starting to feel so frustrated, just look at them. Every stage just goes by so fast. It's hard. My baby is 5 and that makes me so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest is driving out of the driveway now. And that's just enjoy the moments that they're in. Even if it's stressed, especially if you're stressed and you're like, for the moms that have like multiples, if the house is a mess and they are being loud, sit back and just watch them.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate them more. You see the glow in their eyes and stuff like that. I don't know. Enjoy it. I won't say enjoy the mess because I'm still not enjoying the messes, but enjoy them in the mess.
You have to slow down sometimes a little bit. Slow down and realize that they're primary. All the other stuff secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the messes don't matter. My mom keeps telling me the messes don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're anxiety inducing.
Just go outside.
Just leave the environment.
Go
to a friend's house.
Make your bedroom clean and then sit in it.
Yeah, that's the truth. Hey, that's good advice right there because if you have one clean room to go to, you have somewhere for your mind to rest, and your bedroom's a perfect place for your mind to rest.
Or go on full drill sergeant mode and everybody gets busy together. You've got 2 options. Don't sit there in misery.
That's pretty good. Thanks for humoring us and answering our questions on raising kids. So this was 20 questions for Boo about raising kids. Now you know it all.
Yep. All for me, of course.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, just message me.
She's a professional.
Email us at whosegirlareyou@gmail.com and we'll get you in touch.
If anybody actually knows me, they're like, yeah, she's a mess. Man, ask her.
Aren't we all though? Anyone that like looks like they're not, they're faking or they're good at
They're a mess
posing
inside. They're probably a mess inside.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mess somewhere. Right? Just some are more obvious and like you can see them, and some aren't. And
yeah,
none of us are perfect.
Put the messes in the closet. Just put them away. I tell Brian, I was like, you can have a clean house, a clean wife, or clean kids, but you don't get all 3 at once. Take your pick.
That's true too.
Does he like whisper in your ear on his way out to work every morning?
Which one he wants? No.
Yeah, which one he wants when he gets home?
Jay,
nope,
I want a clean wife. Please get out of your sweatpants you've been wearing for 2 days.
I'm teasing.
Nope, it's fine. Yeah, no, he's a pretty good sport. He gets pretty excited though when I'm the clean one, or when the house is the clean one.
Yeah.
It's always a surprise. No, he loves it when the kids look nice. We can go out and do something then.
Yeah, there you go.
It's been fun. Now I have to go and bring my kid to the dentist. Yay!
Oh, yeah.
At least it's not you.
I like going to the dentist.
Oh, you're so weird. We'll have to talk. You'll have to encourage me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
I had a lot of fun, you guys.
Yeah, I'm so glad you joined us.
Yes. These 20 questions are so fun every time we do it. And I'm editing. I love this. It's so much fun. I don't know where this, it just has turned into a really magical, sweet, fun, interesting, always so interesting thing.
Yeah, I love 20 questions. It helps me to get a little bit of a glimpse into maybe some areas of people's lives that you don't always get to see. And I think it's special that people are willing to share it. And then I get a little bit vulnerable about doing it though. So I'm glad I need to keep doing it so that I can stay sensitive to the fact that like we're asking some prying questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so far everybody's been very good sport.
Yeah. Even me. Just kidding.
I love it.
But until next time, see you later.
I'm not going to say take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. See ya. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.